Age, aging, and working life. Why are we talking about postponing the retirement age? What does this mean? Let's look at some diagrams. Sweden's demography, as well as the rest of the Western world, has changed. The population pyramid and how it changes with each generation largely depends on how many people are born every year, as well as the mortality from different contagions, but also on how long we live and how many people immigrate and migrate. This all affects the shape of the population pyramid. If we look 250 years back, we can clearly see that the shape of the population pyramid has changed up to our days. Furthermore, the borders of Sweden has changed. In the 18th century, Finland was also a part of Sweden. In 1750, the population pyramid looked somewhat like a Christmas tree. The population was smaller, 1.8 million, in comparison to the 1.5 million people who live in Stockholm today. However, we cannot be completely sure on how accurate the statistics on population from the 18th century are. Anyway, many children were born, but most people did not live for as long in the 1750s as people do today. Therefore, the top of the pyramid is very thin, even if there were people who lived until they were 90 years, even back in those days. Over 100 years ago, in 1900, Sweden's population pyramid looked like this. In 1913, the general retirement pension was instituted. Earlier, some officials had been eligible for financial benefits after retirement, but in 1913, this was made the general rule. The age of retirement was set to 67 years of age in 1900, but it should be said that only about 40% reached this age. The average life expectancy in Sweden was 58 years of age. However, in 1910, infant mortality was included in the average life expectancy. On average, the people who lived until 67 years of age actually lived for an average of 11 years past their retirement. Today we live for much longer as pensioners. Therefore, the retirement age would be 74 years of age today, if set to an average life expectancy of 11 years of living past retirement. However, in the beginning of 1900, there was a crisis. A larger amount of elderly people were not taken care of by their relatives. Many had immigrated to America. Many others had died from contagions such as the Spanish flu, which caused elderly not to have younger relatives that could care for them. Also, people moved around a lot, where workers were needed in the cities at the factories, and therefore did not live close to elderly relatives and could not care for them like in the former farmer society. However, it was not as easy in the former farmer society either. The elderly were usually moved around their children's homes and lived for 1 to 3 months at a time at each child. From the 18th century, there are lawsuits where siblings sued each other for not taking care of an elderly parent when it was their turn. When the general retirement pension came into being, people were able to afford to pay someone to take care of them. The former poorhouses disappeared and were replaced and developed into what we today call retirement homes. Today, more than 100 years later, the amount of elderly citizens are once again a hot topic, just like the pension system. Sweden's population pyramid for year 2016 looks more like a square rather than a pyramid. People live for longer, largely because of better access to food, better housing, decreased infant mortality, safer environment, workplaces, and work environments. Furthermore, the medicinal development has made people able to live for longer. Some parts of the population pyramid for Sweden's population in 2016 are larger than others. Mainly, we can see that there are more 24 to 29-year-olds, 45 to 55-year-olds, as well as 65 to 69-year-olds. This is because a lot of children were born in the 1940s, the 1960s, and in the start of the 1990s. The demographic development also affects working life. Let's examine the two curly red brackets in these diagrams. They represent the part of the population that are in the workforce. In Sweden, in year 1900, people started working at age 12 to 13, in some cases even earlier. And since there was no general retirement pension at the time, the majority of the population had to provide for themselves throughout life by working for the entirety of their life. However, if we look at the population pyramid of Sweden in year 2018, it displays how citizens today participate in working life for a much smaller part of their lives. In 2016, the average life expectancy in Sweden was 84 years of age for women and almost 81 years of age for men. The average life expectancy is estimated to be 89 years of age for women and 87 years of age for men in 2060. In other words, there is an estimated increased average life expectancy with 5 years for women and 6 years for men during these years. The demographic change with a larger proportion of elderly citizens in society is present around the world. This graphic depicts the increasing old age dependency ratio in the world. The numbers show that the decreasing ratio in different countries between the number of people participating in working life and the number of pensioners in the population from year 2012 to the estimates of year 2050. In other words, how many people in working life are estimated to support every pensioner in the population through the country's social security systems. A challenge with a larger proportion of elderly citizens in society is that it puts a larger strain on the pension system. In 1950 in Sweden, 5 participants of the workforce provided for every pensioner. In 2050, only 2 participants of the workforce are estimated to provide for every pensioner. That is, if we keep the current pension system. The increasing number of pensioners risk a larger financial strain on the economy and challenge our welfare. Our current pension system is based on citizens working for 2/3 of their lives, so that if we live for longer, we also need to work for longer. Healthcare systems is likely to be put under strain, since elderly citizens generally have a larger need for care. Therefore, many countries talk about increasing the number of worked hours in the economy by postponing the retirement age and motivate more people to work until an older age, in order to cope with a larger proportion of citizens living longer lives. If more people can work for longer, this is an opportunity for a larger number of worked hours that contribute to the societal economy. However, if a larger number of citizens should be able to and want to work for longer, the workplaces and working life need to be made sustainable for employees of all ages. Well, how old is elderly? During research and interviews with managers, employees, etc., it has been obvious that age is a rather sensitive subject. For example, participants in research projects have been asked to write their age on their name tags. Everyone will write their name with no objections, but when asked to add their age after their name, some participants experienced this as very sensitive information and objected to why there was a need to focus on age. In a conducted survey, one question was, how old do you feel? The results were fascinating. 55% stated that they felt younger than their actual age, in other words, their chronological age. Only 6% of participants stated that they felt older than their actual chronological age. When examining different age groups closer, it was apparent that among those of 67 years of age, 81% of respondents felt younger than their actual age, and no one felt older. Among responding 22-year-olds, none felt younger than their actual age, but 62% felt older. It turns out that feeling older than your actual age is most common until 24 years of age. Between 25 and 37 years of age, most feel like their actual age, and among those aged 38 years and above, over 50% felt younger than their actual age. And the older the respondents, the larger proportion felt younger than their actual age. Can elderly employees cope with participating in working life? In a conducted study with employees aged 55 to 74 years of age, 64% stated that their age made them more able to cope with their work since they could utilize their life experience, and the experience gathered from years of working in different organizations made them able to cope with their work in a better way. 9% stated that their age made them less able to cope with their work. The number of elderly citizens in society is increasing, and therefore we need to talk about postponing the pension age. The question of how to make working life sustainable is therefore at issue and of great importance. When postponing the retirement age, will employees be able to work until an older age, and what age is that? Can age be defined in different ways? Well, when talking about postponing the pension age, we are talking about chronological age. In other words, how many birthdays we have celebrated. When we talk about chronological age, we measure how many years have passed since our birth. But maybe functional age is of greatest importance in the issue of managing our working life. Functional age is of course affected by chronological age, but functional age is above all a combination of the biological age, social age, and cognitive age. Our biological aging is based on our genetics, how our organs age, and when our hair turns grey. It all depends on the DNA passed down by our parents. But our biological age is also affected by lifestyle, our diet, exercise, smoking, drug use, etc. But it is also affected by what our working life has been like, what work situations we've been subjected to. A heavy physical workload makes us age faster, biologically speaking. The working environment affects our biological aging. A stressful working environment also makes us age faster in a biological sense. Social age is how we are perceived in different life phases. We are seen one way when we are children and adolescents, another way when we are adults, and yet another way when we are perceived as elderly employees on the brink of retirement. Based on these perceived life phases, we are assigned different characteristics through our life. Different stereotypes and attitudes are applied on people in different social ages. Cognitive age is about cognition, memory, ability to learn new skills, etc., and how this changes with age. Children learn in one way and older people in another way. Children, for example, usually can learn a new language quite easily, whereas learning a new language can be quite hard for an older person. An older person that possesses knowledge within an area will have less problem learning new information associated to this area of present knowledge, but it can be quite harder or take longer time to learn something completely new that is not associated to present knowledge for an older person. It's easier to learn by doing. Cognitive age is also associated with wisdom and knowledge of experience. Coping in working life until an older age puts a focus on age and aging. We need to understand age and aging, and how our aging affects our possibility to work. However, aging does not occur after the age of 60. We age and develop throughout our lifetime. Therefore, age and aging is important to consider when trying to create a healthy and sustainable working life for all ages. Analysis show that age relates to the 9 determinant areas that affect whether we can and want to participate in working life until an older age, and are therefore part of this wage model. Biological age relates to the health effects of the work environment. Since health, diagnosis, functional variations are associated to the physical work environment, the mental work environment, as well as working hours, work pace, and time for recuperation. These factors all affect our biological aging. The chronological age relates and is associated to a personal financial situation through different benefit systems, laws, and regulations regarding age. These are all based on the chronological age. Social age relates to social inclusion and support. Since we receive different support and are perceived differently depending on our life phase, both in and outside working life. The cognitive age relates to the execution of work tasks, since our memory changes with age. Competence and skills play a part, as well as the opportunity for self-fulfilling activities. Age must be a part of the reflection on how to make working life sustainable for all ages, since these different determinant areas and different age definitions that relate to them affect us throughout our working life. Consider and reflect on your age and the different age definitions.